Westminster is on fire. Keir Starmer, the man who promised to steady Britain after years of chaos, now finds himself trapped in the very storm he swore to calm. A leaked Brexit U-turn has detonated like a political bomb, and the fallout is ripping through Parliament, tearing his party apart, and threatening to end his leadership in humiliation. What was meant to be a display of strength has been exposed as a staggering act of betrayal, and the backlash is spiralling out of control. The revelation came without warning. Secret documents exposed a hidden deal between Starmer's government and Brussels, a deal that concedes what Brexit voters fought to defend. Fishing rights, border control, and youth mobility, all quietly handed back in a desperate attempt to ease tensions with the European Union. Instead of the iron grip on sovereignty he once promised, Starmer now stands accused of selling it off behind closed doors. For a leader who campaigned on trust, honesty, and accountability, this leak is nothing short of catastrophic. The anger was instant and ferocious. Within minutes, Westminster's corridors were echoing with outrage. Labour backbenchers, already uneasy with his leadership, erupted in fury, calling the deal a betrayal of Britain's independence. Allies turned to enemies, accusing him of deception, cowardice, and treachery. Across the benches, voices that once whispered doubts now roar in defiance. Insiders say the atmosphere is electric, poisonous, and impossible to contain. A mutiny has been unleashed, and it is moving faster than Starmer's team can even respond. But the rebellion has not stopped at Labour's door. Conservative MPs, sensing weakness, have seized their chance. With ruthless precision, they have joined Labour rebels to force a no-confidence vote, turning Starmer's private crisis into a political earthquake. It is a rare moment of unity, rivals and enemies aligning for one purpose: to bring him down. The Commons, once a stage where Starmer projected calm authority, now vibrates with threats, shouts, and the smell of collapse. The question no longer hangs over whether he will fall. The only question is when. Beyond Westminster, the fury spreads like wildfire. In fishing towns from Grimsby to Hull to Plymouth, outrage has boiled into the streets. Banners accusing Starmer of betrayal fly high above fleets of boats. Families who rely on the sea for their survival say their futures have been bartered away, sold out for the convenience of Brussels. For them, Brexit was never about politics in Westminster. It was about dignity, work, and the right to control their own lives. Now they believe that dignity has been stolen. Their protests are not polite, quiet gatherings. They are raw, furious, and growing louder by the day. Nigel Farage has wasted no time stepping into the chaos. With razor-sharp soundbites, he brands Starmer the Brexit betrayer-in-chief. His message is simple but devastating. Labour cannot be trusted, and Reform UK is the only true defender of the people's will. The anger is feeding him, swelling his rallies, and giving his party oxygen at the very moment Labour is gasping for air. Polls hint at danger for Starmer's fragile red wall constituencies, and whispers already warn that Reform's surge could redraw Britain's political map. Inside Labour headquarters, panic is spreading like fire through dry grass. Staffers speak of screaming matches behind closed doors, furious attempts to spin the story, and senior advisors fighting each other instead of defending their leader. Every outburst, every misstep, only makes Starmer look weaker. What was once projected as strength now appears as desperation. He lashes out at his MPs, threatens deselection, but his words land with no fear. Instead of silencing his critics, he emboldens them. Authority is slipping away, and even his most loyal allies are falling silent. The media smells blood. Headlines scream betrayal. Front pages paint the image of a leader unravelling before the nation's eyes. Footage of him snapping at his own MPs, denying what can no longer be denied, plays on loop across Britain's screens. Each broadcast is another blow to his credibility. Each headline, another nail hammered into the coffin of his leadership. The collapse is happening in real time, and there is no hiding it. And yet, this is only the beginning. The rebellion is gaining speed. The outrage is spreading. The storm is building. And as Starmer clings desperately to power, one truth has become undeniable. Labour is in meltdown, and the countdown to his fall has already begun. The walls of Westminster are closing in. What began as whispers of rebellion has exploded into an open mutiny that no party machine can contain. The Labour benches, once tightly bound by discipline, now crack apart in full view of the nation. MPs who only months ago stood shoulder to shoulder with Starmer now line up to denounce him, their voices growing louder and more defiant with each passing hour. For them, loyalty has turned into liability, and silence has become a death sentence. In Parliament, silence is no longer neutral. It is betrayal waiting to be declared. And in this storm, betrayal is the loudest weapon of all. The scandal is not just about policy. It is about secrecy, deception, and trust. The leaked deal revealed more than concessions to Brussels. It revealed that Starmer had hidden the truth from MPs, from voters, and from his own inner circle. This was no open negotiation. It was a backroom surrender carried out in the shadows. For a leader who promised transparency, it is the ultimate hypocrisy. And for many in his party, it is unforgivable. Labour MPs are not simply angry at the outcome. They are furious at the method. What they see is a man who wrapped betrayal in secrecy and then tried to sell it as strategy. That sense of broken trust runs deeper than Brexit itself. It is a wound that cannot be healed, a betrayal that has left his leadership fatally poisoned. Shadow cabinet ministers, once loyal to the core, now distance themselves in silence. Their refusal to defend him a signal louder than any speech. Behind closed doors, names of successors are whispered like secrets, potential leaders testing the waters, preparing for the inevitable collapse. Some MPs openly admit they are already planning for the next leadership contest, treating Starmer's downfall not as a question, but as a countdown. His camp is described as a bunker, filled with paranoia, frantic meetings, and desperate threats. Every day brings new leaks from within his own circle, proof that loyalty has evaporated, replaced by survival instincts and betrayal. The rebellion has spilled beyond Labour's walls, binding unlikely allies together. Conservative MPs, smelling blood in the water, have joined Labour rebels with glee. Their aim is not just to topple Starmer, but to shatter Labour's credibility before the next election. In rare unity, both sides find common cause in vengeance. It is no longer about ideology, no longer about left or right. It is about seizing the chance to destroy a man who is already collapsing under the weight of his own choices. Cross-party alliances of this ferocity are almost unheard of, and yet here they are, sharpening their knives in plain sight, turning the Commons into a battlefield. Beyond Westminster, the fury intensifies. Fishing towns betrayed by the concessions to Brussels are no longer just protesting. They are revolting. In Grimsby, Hull and Plymouth, streets are choked with demonstrators chanting, "Sold out by Labour." Fleets of boats cover harbours with banners branding Starmer a traitor. These are not symbolic gestures. They are communities fighting for their survival. For them, this is not about political games or parliamentary arithmetic. This is about livelihoods destroyed, futures stolen, dignity trampled. They see the deal not as compromise, but as betrayal written in black and white, and they will not forgive it. Their anger is not polite. It is raw, furious, and swelling into a movement. The media has sharpened its knives, circling the wounded leader like vultures over a carcass. Headlines scream of collapse, betrayal, and chaos. Rolling coverage treats the countdown to the no-confidence vote as national theatre, playing his outbursts and denials alongside footage of protests and resignations. Every broadcast paints him weaker. Every headline accelerates the sense of a leader already finished. The comparisons are brutal and unavoidable. Commentators liken his downfall to Theresa May's deadlock, Gordon Brown's lonely collapse, and Jeremy Corbyn's rebellion-ridden downfall. Each example carries the same grim conclusion. Once authority shatters, it never returns. Markets too have joined the chorus of alarm. Sterling trembles, investors pull back, and business leaders warn of instability. Starmer promised stability, competence, and calm, but the irony is cruel. His attempt to appear pragmatic has created chaos. Instead of projecting strength, he has exposed weakness. Instead of building trust, he has shattered it. The cost of his secret deal is not only political, it is economic, social, and personal. Every corner of Britain now feels the shockwaves. And in the shadows, Nigel Farage hammers the same message with ruthless efficiency. Starmer is the Brexit betrayer. Labour cannot be trusted. Reform UK is the only true defender of sovereignty. It is a message that cuts deep and one that Labour cannot seem to silence. The rebellion is no longer creeping. It is galloping. Each hour brings fresh defections, new declarations of disloyalty, another knife driven into the heart of Starmer's leadership. In committee rooms and corridors, plots to remove him multiply, and whispers of replacements grow louder. For his MPs, the calculation is brutal. It is no longer about whether to save him. It is about whether they can save themselves while he drags them down. And for the public, the spectacle is undeniable. They see a leader unravelling, clinging to power with trembling hands, while his authority slips away like sand through his fingers. This is not just a crisis, it is a collapse in motion. Labour is in meltdown, and Starmer is at the centre of the storm. The fury is rising, the knives are out, and the countdown to his political execution ticks closer by the hour. The collapse inside Labour now feels unstoppable. What was once sold as unity has shattered into open warfare, with MPs plotting, leaking, and manoeuvring against the very leader they once swore to defend. Inside Labour headquarters, staffers describe scenes of absolute chaos, shouting matches between advisers, frantic attempts to plug leaks, and senior figures openly accusing each other of betrayal. The discipline that once defined Starmer's leadership has evaporated, replaced by paranoia, fear, and desperation. Every phone call is suspect, every conversation whispered, every ally treated as a potential traitor. The fortress of loyalty he once relied on has crumbled into a bunker of fear. And from that bunker, Starmer lashes out at everyone around him. His anger is no longer controlled, his authority no longer respected. Each threat he makes only deepens the rebellion. Each furious outburst only strengthens the mutiny. For Labour MPs, the choice has become brutal and simple. Stand by Starmer and sink with him, or cut him loose before it is too late. Many now say openly that he is finished. Some even mock him in private, describing a man unravelling before their eyes, desperate, cornered, and clinging to power with trembling hands. Shadow ministers, once loyal, now prepare resignation letters, waiting for the right moment to deliver the final blow. Even his closest allies, those who defended him against critics in the past, now retreat into silence, refusing to go down with a sinking ship. Their silence is not neutral. It is abandonment, and in politics, abandonment is the beginning of the end. The Commons itself has transformed into a theatre of revolt. Every session feels less like debate and more like the collapse of authority. Shouts of betrayal echo through the chamber, accusations of cowardice fly across the benches, and Starmer sits at the centre, exposed, weakened, and humiliated. For Conservative MPs, this is a gift. They frame Labour's implosion as proof that the party cannot be trusted with Britain's future. For Labour rebels, it is their last chance to save the party before it collapses entirely. And for the public, watching the chaos unfold, the conclusion is clear. Labour is in meltdown, and Starmer has lost control. But the fury has spread far beyond Parliament's walls. In fishing communities across Britain, the protests grow louder and more dangerous. In Grimsby, fleets of boats flood the harbour under banners declaring "betrayed by Labour." In Plymouth, streets echo with chants of treachery as families demand sovereignty be restored. In Hull, entire communities gather in defiance, refusing to accept that their futures have been traded away in secret. These are not symbolic protests. They are eruptions of real rage, fueled by livelihoods at stake and promises broken. To these communities, Brexit was never abstract. It was survival, dignity, and hope. And in their eyes, Starmer has sold it all out. Their fury is raw, personal, and unrelenting. The media has turned the scandal into a spectacle, magnifying every act of rebellion and every sign of collapse. Television screens replay Starmer's denials, spliced against the words he once promised about sovereignty and transparency, building a damning narrative of lies and betrayal. Headlines scream of Labour in meltdown and Starmer betrayed Britain, fueling the sense that the country is watching a leader disintegrate before their eyes. Commentators dissect his downfall with ruthless precision, comparing him to leaders past. Theresa May trapped in deadlock, Gordon Brown abandoned in silence, Jeremy Corbyn engulfed by mutiny. Each comparison lands the same devastating blow. Once authority is lost, it never comes back. Markets reel from the instability. Investors, already wary of Britain's fragile recovery, panic at the sight of political chaos. Sterling wavers, warnings from business leaders pour in, and the promise of calm that Starmer built his leadership on lies in ruins. The irony is brutal. The man who swore to bring stability has unleashed turmoil greater than anything before. His attempt to appear pragmatic has instead revealed recklessness. His effort to project strength has instead exposed fragility. And as the country watches, the image of competence he once relied upon collapses into the picture of a man overwhelmed, cornered, and incapable of controlling events. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage sharpens his attacks with precision. Every speech, every soundbite drives the knife deeper. He brands Starmer not simply as weak, but as the very symbol of Brexit betrayal. His rallies swell, his message resonates, and Reform UK surges in the polls. The betrayal narrative has taken hold, not just in fishing towns, but across Labour's fragile red wall heartlands. Voters who only recently returned to Labour now question whether the party deserves their trust at all. For many, the answer is already no. The betrayal is unforgivable, the anger unstoppable, and Reform's rise is inevitable. In the midst of it all, Starmer grows more isolated by the hour. His threats fall flat, his promises sound hollow, and his authority is evaporating in plain sight. What began as whispers of discontent has grown into a full-scale mutiny. What began as a political scandal has erupted into a national reckoning, and now the countdown to his collapse has taken on a momentum of its own. Unstoppable, merciless, and moving faster than he can possibly survive. Labour is not just in crisis, it is breaking apart before the nation's eyes, and Keir Starmer stands powerless to stop it. The clock is ticking, and Keir Starmer's leadership now hangs by a thread. Every hour brings fresh resignations, new declarations of rebellion, and another wave of fury from the public. Inside Parliament, the no-confidence vote looms like a guillotine, casting its shadow over every conversation, every whisper, every headline. It is no longer about if he will fall, but how quickly and how brutally the collapse will come. MPs speak of survival, not loyalty. Their words are no longer framed as cautious criticism, but as open defiance. What began as private doubts has grown into a chorus of revolt, a tidal wave that no amount of discipline or spin can stop. The Labour leader who promised calm and control is now cornered, abandoned, and humiliated, clinging to power with nothing left but fear. Outside Westminster, the rebellion has taken on a life of its own. In coastal towns and industrial heartlands, protests swell into movements that defy containment. Boats sail under banners of defiance. Streets echo with chants of betrayal. Entire communities brand Labour as traitors, refusing to forgive what they see as a surrender written in secret. For them, this is not politics. This is survival stolen, dignity stripped away, futures traded for empty promises. Their fury is not fading. It is growing, spreading like fire across the nation. From the Red Wall to London's streets, the betrayal narrative roars louder with each passing day, uniting voices across political divides under one demand. Starmer must go. The media continues to feast on the crisis, replaying every outburst, every resignation, every act of rebellion. Rolling coverage counts down to the no-confidence vote, as if it were a national drama, dissecting every move and magnifying every failure. The image is devastating. A leader unravelling in real time, his authority collapsing in front of the nation he vowed to steady. Markets tremble, investors panic, and the promise of stability lies in ashes. Starmer, once seen as the cautious pragmatist who could steady the ship, now appears reckless, desperate, and fatally exposed. His own words, his past promises, now return to haunt him, spliced into headlines that scream hypocrisy and betrayal. And in the shadows, Nigel Farage delivers blow after blow, his message sharpened to perfection. Labour cannot be trusted. Starmer is the Brexit betrayer, and only Reform UK stands for the people's will. Each fiery rally swells with anger. Each soundbite cuts deeper into Labour's fragile heartlands. Polls whisper of a dangerous surge, the kind that could redraw Britain's political map and tear Labour's foundations apart. The more Labour fractures, the stronger Reform grows. The more Starmer pleads, the louder his critics become. The betrayal narrative is no longer a political slogan. It is a movement, a force that Labour cannot silence, and Starmer cannot survive. Inside Labour's headquarters, the meltdown is complete. Advisers whisper of successors, shadow ministers manoeuvre for position, and once loyal allies turn their backs in silence. The air is thick with paranoia, fear, and resignation. Each leak from within proves the same truth. The leader has lost control not only of his party, but of his own inner circle. What was once sold as unity and strength has collapsed into a civil war. For Labour MPs, the choice is stark: abandon their leader or be dragged into electoral ruin. For the public, the verdict is clear. The man who promised to defend sovereignty has betrayed it, and the party that vowed to restore trust has destroyed it. The no-confidence vote is coming, and its outcome already feels written. Starmer stands at the edge of political extinction, abandoned by allies, hunted by enemies, and rejected by the very people he sought to lead. His authority is shattered, his reputation destroyed, his promises turned into weapons against him. This is no longer a crisis. It is a reckoning. Labour is in meltdown, Britain is in uproar, and Keir Starmer faces collapse on a scale that will define a generation. The betrayal is complete, the backlash unstoppable, and the countdown to his downfall has already begun.